The Kings fall to 1-1 on the season as they lose at home in their home opener to the Warriors 122-114 as Steph goes for 41. Fox responded with 22 in the fourth to get 39 points, but it wasn't enough. And what was really frustrating about this game is it's just it seemed like we hadn't learned from how we lost to the Warriors in the playoffs. At least Sacramento Republic FC won their game, so they're going to the Western Conference Finals. But it would have been nice if we could have gotten both wins at the same time. And now the Kings, they had a lead for a lot of the first half, then let it slip late in the first half. But like that was fine. We were only down three, which is kind of what happened in Game 7 of that first round playoff series. And then it was the third quarter. And the Warriors are a third quarter team. We all know this. And Steph just went off. But what made no sense to me is, I said after the last game, why are you starting Kevin Huerter? I said that in the preseason, and I'm going to say it again. Why are you starting Kevin Huerter? 0 points, 0 for 5 from 3, guarding Steph Curry for some reason, doing a horrible job in all aspects defensively. He played the first 6 minutes of the first half, was horrible, and then didn't play again in the first half. But I knew, of course, we're just going to throw him back out there in the third quarter as if nothing happened and have him go guard Steph Curry again. Like we were in this game. And then it doesn't matter if it's only for 12 minutes of a 48-minute game. You can lose the game in those 12 minutes, and that's the first 6 minutes of the first quarter and the first 6 minutes of the third quarter. You can lose it in one of those 6 minute spells to a guy like Steph Curry. You can't put a bad defender on this guy for even a little bit of time. And we did it multiple times after we just had a 7 game playoff series against him. And he went off for 50 in game 7. And we try to do the same thing. I just don't get it. It wasn't until late in the third and the fourth quarter when we finally started double teaming him. And it worked. Who would have thought? It's almost like that's what we did in the playoffs. And it worked. I don't get why we didn't learn from that. I said it before that playoff series. This team is not good guarding one on one, but when they get into rotation, they are a much better defensive team. And we saw that again today. There are positive signs. You just can't throw Kevin Huerter out there to guard Steph Curry. This team has an average defense in it, but not when you're having Kevin Huerter be isolated against Steph Curry. I would rather have Barnes or Keegan Murray, or I would honestly, I'm not even kidding. I would rather have Sabonis guarding him because I think Sabonis would do a better job of running him off the 3 point line into help defense. I'm not even kidding. I seriously believe that Huerter is the worst option to guard Steph Curry. I believe that Huerter at some point this season will find his 3 point shot and will make a positive contribution to this team. I just don't think it should be in the starting lineup. Like, even when he doesn't have to guard Steph Curry, I don't think that he should be in the starting lineup. And I do think he will be traded at some point this season. But it was just the first 6 minutes of each half when you have a bad defensive lineup out there, just allowing the Warriors to get dunks or layups in the first quarter every single time down, and then they shorted up. They made subs, they made adjustments. Chris Duarte was awesome again off the bench. He wasn't knocking down his shot, but he was great defensively, especially against Klay Thompson. He did a great job of guarding him. He also made some really nice passes. He was running the pick and roll with JaVale McGee, which was really nice to see because that's something that I didn't really expect to see. I thought he was really good, so he should start. And I really loved that Fox, Monk, Duarte, Sasha, McGee lineup. And the Kings, anytime Dario Saric was on the floor, they were taking advantage of him and putting him in the action. And Sasha got it going offensively. I thought he was even solid defensively, and the whole team just started playing really good defense towards the end of that first quarter. Keegan, I thought was looked really good to start the game, and then he started missing some shots, but he kept being aggressive, and I thought even though he went 6 for 16, 3 for 11 from 3, I thought he looked really good. And like again, these first two games of the season, we haven't seen an offensive explosion from him, but I think you can clearly see that it's there. It's going to come. And I thought his defense looked really good in this game as well. And so that's super exciting. I think he's a two-way star in the making. Still love the Monk to McGee connection. I do think in the second quarter, the offense just went stale when for a little bit we had Fox and Monk both off the court. And I thought things went a little stale offensively, and that's when the Warriors started forcing turnovers and getting back into the game. Because it wasn't even just turnovers, but it was also just the Kings being indecisive and kind of getting inside in traffic, and they weren't necessarily turning it over, but they would like get blocked or just take a bad shot inside that would immediately lead to a transition as if it were a turnover. So it may not show up as a turnover in the box score, but it acted like one. And that was a huge problem. And then that continued into the third quarter with just turnovers, missing free throws, which, that's just, I mean, what are you going to do? You just have to make your free throws. You can't, when you're going up against Steph and a hot Warriors team with Moses Moody knocking down shots, with Clay starting to knock down shots, you can't give them freebies in transition off of turnovers, and you can't shoot 69% from the free throw line. You can't miss 9 free throws. Now, the one thing that the Kings did much better in this game than they did, in the playoffs against the Warriors, and there was no Draymond, so that's a part of it, but the rebounding was much better. So it at least seems like we've improved on that from the playoffs, but that was about it. And then we saw a little bit of a zone defense towards the end of the third, which totally didn't work, and the Warriors were finding the spaces in that, and so didn't keep going to that at all. The Warriors also showed zone for a couple possessions, clearly didn't work, so they went away from it. Both teams realizing, yeah, that's not going to work. And it was truly another game where it felt like for most of the game, the Kings were playing either to the Warriors level or they were better than them. And it was just that third quarter that really felt like we let it go. And then we had that big run in the fourth quarter, of course, led by fourth quarter Fox. But then, he misses a free throw, of course. But then we get the offensive rebound, and I don't know about that 3-point shot at the end, but what can I say when he's going off? But of course, anything that we did at the end there, that's not why we lost the game. That's just us trying to come back into the game and salvage what we could. And the Warriors are known for throwing away games like that and making games close and just throwing away leads, right? I think to some extent the Kings do that as well. Although not as much as the Warriors, because the Warriors just throw the ball away. Like at the start of the Kings run, it was just Steph just chucking the ball out of bounds for no reason, and that's just what they do, and that's what kind of you you live and die by with the Warriors, of just random passes, just trying to make things happen, and just turning the ball over can lead to big runs. But it was also the Kings defense just trapping, being active, and of course, the Warriors are trying to run more clock. So maybe if we did that earlier in the game, they could have taken more advantage of it. But I think that we should be, not trapping everyone, but just trapping Curry for most of the game. And there was one point where I think Davion was guarding Curry. This was maybe early third quarter or mid third quarter, kind of right between when we decided we can't, have Steph keep going one on one to like when we started trapping him. And there was a switch, Barnes on to Curry, and Davion was right there. Could have trapped him in a corner. Davion dropped off, then came like 2 seconds later with a trap when Steph was already in a lot more space. It's like that was a big mistake. You just need to commit to trapping him when you have him in a corner. Yeah, it's just super frustrating when I just see the same exact mistakes. Not necessarily from any individual player, but just the game plan coming into it. I see people on social media, like Kings fans, overreacting and being like, oh, the Warriors, this is just a terrible matchup for us. I would rather play Denver, Milwaukee, Boston. Like, no, no, no. No, no, no. Guys, remember, we went 7 games with them. We were one shot away from winning game 4. Like, we can be better than the Warriors. It's right there for the taking. And I think we have better personnel to do it now than we did. And that's especially with Chris Duarte. Davion didn't have the best game. He didn't have the best game guarding Curry, and he didn't have a good offensive game. But I think with him, with Duarte, with Fox, I feel like we have the personnel to do it. I think Keegan's gotten a lot better defensively, so that allows him to guard Chris Paul in the perimeter if needed, to guard Andrew Wiggins, to guard Jonathan Kuminga or Klay Thompson. Like, I think we've gotten better defensively from the growth of Keegan and from the acquisition of Chris Duarte, who's taking the spot of Terrence Davis. And I do think if we came in with a better game plan to stop Curry, we could have won this game. Also, turnovers, big deal. That's definitely a big part of it. But the Warriors did have more turnovers than us, but a lot of those were down the stretch, which led to our run. Also, it's kind of funny watching Curry and Fox play against each other because it never feels like they're going off at the same time. Like Curry had 41, Fox had 39, but Curry has the third quarter and Fox has the fourth quarter. So it never feels like they're just trading buckets, but it's like they have their own runs at different times. But the main takeaway for me, well, it would be nice to have Trey Lyles in this game. JaVale McGee was up and down. Like he had some JaVale McGee moments where he would, make a bad decision with the ball. But then also had some, good oop and just good presence around the rim. But maybe it would have been nice to have Lyles in there to be the small ball 5 at times. But I don't think that would have made a huge difference by any means in this game. But I'm just kind of saying it'll be nice to have him back, but it'll be interesting because Sasha played really well in this game. He, was knocking out shots, made some good cuts, got some easy baskets around the rim, and he played solid defense. I do think, as crazy as it may sound, I do think the Warriors are actually a solid matchup for Sasha. I'm beginning to see more of that Bielitsa in him. I talked about that in the preseason where it's like I was hoping I saw some of that Bielitsa defense where it's like an underrated guy who can just kind of stay in front of guys on the perimeter and be strong inside. And I saw a little bit more of that from him in this game, and he seems like he's figuring things out. So it'll be interesting to see how the rotations are when Trey Lyles comes back. But yeah, my main takeaway from this game and from the last game and from all of preseason is even if Kevin Huerter starts hitting his shots, like we know he can, like we know because he's streaky, he can just go on a crazy run from 3. I truly think that Chris Duarte is the guy to start. Chris Duarte wasn't hitting his shots, but I think he had a pretty positive impact on the game defensively. And obviously, he wasn't perfect defensively. It's extremely hard to be against Steph Curry or when you're guarding Klay Thompson, but he's so much better than Kevin Huerter. And like I know I'm ragging on Kevin Huerter, but I'm not even blaming him. I'm blaming the coaching staff for putting him in the position because he's a really good NBA player, but he's just in the wrong spot right now, I think. It's just he's the guy out of the starting lineup who can be moved out of the starting lineup because he would be fine being in the starting lineup if he had other defensive guys alongside him, but that's just not the case. So it's unfortunate for him. I want to make that clear. Like he's still a really good NBA player. It's just this situation that he's in, and I think he'd be better suited coming off the bench, and I think he'd be better suited honestly in another team just because we need a defensive guy in the starting lineup. We need an Alex Caruso or a Torrey Craig, like those guys, or Javon Carter. Those three guys on the Bulls, they make a crazy defensive trio that I was watching play against the Raptors today. We need guys like that. And Alex Caruso is hitting threes, and Kevin Huerter isn't. But I really think we need that defensive specialist type of guy in the starting lineup. And you'd think, oh, we lost to the Warriors. Good thing we don't have to see them again for a while, right? Nope. November 1st, we play them again. It's not even like I'm not like scared of like losing another game to them. It's literally just getting boring at this point. Even though they're kind of exciting games, this one was kind of exciting, like at the start and towards the end. But they tend to be exciting games, but it's just like I'm so done with it. I want to play some other teams. I want some variety. But the next game that we play is against the Lakers on Sunday. I probably won't be able to watch that one till Monday, so I'll be late reacting to that one, but that is another home game. And the Lakers have not looked good this season with their new guys and guys that they traded for at the deadline last year. They have not looked good. They are 1-1. They got that win against the Suns, who had Kevin Durant and a bunch of nobodies on their team, and somehow they almost lost it. And then they also lost to the Nuggets. No shame in losing to the Nuggets, to be fair. It's more the barely winning against the Suns. That was, I'm kind of saying, did not look good for them. But they're still a good team. So, we got a difficult run of 3 games here with Warriors, Lakers, Warriors. And then it gets a little easier with 2 against Houston, 1 against Portland. But hopefully we can bounce back in that game and beat LA. It'll be interesting to see how many minutes LeBron plays because in the first game against Denver, he only played about 30 minutes. And Darvin Ham kind of said that that's what they would be limiting him to. But then I think he played more than that against the Suns. So I think they kind of abandoned that minutes limit right away. But from what we've seen for the Lakers so far this season, it's the same thing as it always is. They're really good when LeBron's on the court and not so much when he's not. They don't have Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, I don't know. I don't know actually what he's out with. So I don't know if he could be back for this next game. But that's a big loss for them because they don't really have anyone that could guard Fox. So Fox should be able to have a pretty good game going up against a backcourt of D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves. Neither of them are good defenders. And then they have Taurean Prince in the starting lineup as well. It'll be interesting to see the Sabonis versus Anthony Davis matchup. I thought Sabonis had a pretty good game in this one against the Warriors, but Anthony Davis is a different type of defender. Obviously, a very good defender, but he does shy away from contact a little at times and can disappear in games. So I think we just got to take advantage when LeBron's off the court and AD is on the court. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back probably on Monday to recap that next game against the Lakers. Peace.